What's up, guys? Welcome to week 12 of Flex Friday. We're coming at you finally with a full selection of games this week. I'm excited. We've had so many people on buys just across the past month. So let's welcome in Andy to the show.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, feeling excited, man. Thanksgiving it wasn't one of my favorite holidays as a kid, except for sometimes we would rent a Nintendo 64. Because that's how old I guess I am, is back when you could rent video game consoles and play Pokemon Snap all Thanksgiving long. And then I got super into football when I started to get older, and it became an amazing holiday.
So I know I do really truthfully miss for those guys watching, Andy and I are childhood best friends, and we used to do a little turkey bowl when we still lived in the same place with our brothers. And that's just one of my favorite memories, playing in the snow. So we're going to do something new this week. Just quickly before the intro, Andy and I are just going to go over our picks actually from last week, just so people watching can hold us accountable, right? Are we idiots? Are we smart? Where do we go right? Where did we go wrong? So I'm going to bring those up real quick, and I'll have Andy just walk through his just really quick, kind of just quick style, and then I'll do the same with mine. So Andy, what do you want to say about your picks from week? Oh, this is week 11. I wrote week 12, but same idea.
Oh, well, hopefully mine looks fairly similar for this next week. I mean, I'll take two guys who finished as top 12 wide receivers, the top 10 quarterback, and a running back who finished at 16. And I will say I prefaced Tyler Higbee with, I hope you don't have to play Tyler Higbee. I hope you were listening earlier, picked up McBride, Ferguson, Schultz, a lot of the other guys that we talked about, and we're just rolling with them. But I feel your pain too. I had to start Tyler Higbee in a league. So, I don't feel great about that one. But overall, I mean, I'd say that's pretty solid for guys who are, not started in most leagues, and, people were thinking about putting on the bench.
Yeah, 100%. I think same for me. Tight end, Cade Otton, tight end 13. I think you're streaming. You're okay with that. He didn't kill you. He at least got some targets. He dropped a touchdown in the end zone, and he was targeted on another. McLaurin, just unfortunate. Dotson did get in the end zone in this game. He just didn't get the TD. Sutton, I think, had a great performance. And then obviously Kyler Murray, Devin Singletary, really monster games, especially Singletary there at running back. So stay tuned, guys, for our picks for week 12 coming up after the intro. So Andy and I are getting this video out a little earlier than usual, just because we have so many unique games this week, obviously, right? Thanksgiving games, we got the Black Friday game. So Andy, come at us with your first flex pick for week 12.
Well, my first flex pick is from the first game going on. That is Romeo Doubs playing the Lions in Detroit, the classic Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving game. Coming off of being wide receiver 17 last week, he has a great matchup this week. He was literally the only bright spot on the Packers offense week 4 when they played the Lions, where he had 9 catches, 95 yards on 13 targets. Lions are 31st DVOA versus wide receiver 2s, allowing almost 30 points per game to wide receivers in general. And it's tough. The Packers have been giving me some hope these last few weeks. It was real dark for a while, and now their offense is clicking. Love's looking better. It's got me back rooting again, 47-point over-under. And, I think that this could be a game that he goes off again and is the number 1 wide receiver on the Packers this week.
Yeah, he looked really good last week. He obviously got the touchdown. Jordan Love is such a tough one to kind of judge. He either looks pretty good or really bad. Honestly, I wish he had some more in between games, just so that he was a little more stable. But they're going to throw,
Yeah.
and they're going to keep throwing, especially with Aaron Jones out. I just saw it's a MCL sprain, so it's not an ACL season over, but he's definitely going to miss some time. So
Thank
we're
goodness.
all thankful for that. My first pick, and this is probably one of the deeper picks I'm going to go with for this week, but I'm going to start out with it because I do feel pretty good about it. And I'm going to preface this by saying if he plays, looks like he's going to, but we'll see. That's going to be Odell Beckham against the LA Chargers. This is going to be another primetime game for OBJ, who honestly, when you look his stats up, they had some sort of stat on the broadcast, and I wish I'd copied it down because I couldn't find it in looking right now. But he has some pretty crazy stats in primetime games alone. He went 4 for 116 last week before missing the last bit of the game with his shoulder injury. He just kind of looked like he got banged up. And from everything I'm reading, he sounds like he's day-to-day. They're saying it's not too bad. But just in watching that game, once Mark Andrews came out, it really looked like the Ravens leaned on their wide receivers more, and especially OBJ as more of like just a guy to make big plays for them. I mean, he really had 2 really big plays and 4 for 116. Like, just, do that math. That's over 25 yards per catch, obviously. He just looked pretty healthy last week running routes, and I don't think we've been able to say that about Beckham for a while. But let's not forget the last time we did see him super healthy, like he was on pace to be like the MVP of that Super Bowl with Stafford. Like he was killing it until he came out of the game. So if he can look healthy, this Baltimore offense is really, really good. And the Chargers is an amazing matchup for any offense.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I picked Jaden Reed last week was how bad the Chargers are against guarding wide receivers. I was a little surprised that Isaiah Likely didn't, what did he have, like 2 targets for no catches like the rest of the game? Because that was a great matchup for the tight ends. I mean, Mark Andrews, 2 big receptions on an opening drive before he got hurt. But yeah, I like Odell this week a lot. He had 7 targets in the game, those 4 big receptions. And so it seems like, Likely's going to step in, and I still like him as a tight end moving forward to some capacity, but he's not going to get the Mark Andrews workload. And like you said, some of those are going to go to the wide receivers. So, Beckham could see an uptick in his targets.
Yeah, I definitely thought about having Likely as my tight end for the week. It's just last week was so like, I think I would almost have to see it before I put him in my lineup, because I do think he has some talent. I just he just didn't really look up to speed with the offense. Not to simplify, but he just wasn't in the right place at the right time. And that is very important, especially for tight ends. So who's going to be your second flex player for Thanksgiving week?
So coming up next, that is Jerome Ford. Been on this list before. He's RB25 on the season in points per game. He and Kareem Hunt are still splitting snaps. Ford had 49% of the snaps, which is a little bit higher than Hunt. Split carries, they each had 12. Surprisingly, Ford had 5 targets to Hunt's 3, so he was being targeted more in the passing game. But played a really tough game against the Steelers. It's divisional, AFC North, Steelers, Browns, cold weather defensive football. So, he still finished as, with over 10 points. He got a touchdown to kind of save his week. But this week he gets to play the Broncos, 31st against the run, giving up the most fantasy points to the position. The rookie quarterback, he got his first win, but this is still a team that they're not going to want to put him in those situations where he's going to throw a bunch. They want to give him easy passes. They want to run the ball. They want to play defense. And against this Broncos team, I feel they're going to have a lot more success on the ground. And both Ford and Hunt, I think, are startable this week. I would take Ford over Hunt, but I think you can start them both.
I do think Ford is the better running back in that system. I think Hunt is a fine player for them, but Ford is just, he's younger, right? There's a reason that all these teams want these rookies on those rookie deals, is that they just seem a little more explosive. And going off what you said, I mean, the Vikings ran for over 150 yards on the Broncos last week. Madison had 81. Chandler had 73, and he averaged 7.3 yards per carry. So just like you said, with with the backup in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, or I think I said that correctly, they're going to run the ball. They're going to lean on the defense, and they're going to pound the rock, especially against Denver, who gave up just massive gaping holes to the Vikings last week. My second guy this week is going to be my running back for the week, and that's going to be James Conner against the Rams. Conner had 16 touches in back-to-back games after coming back from his knee injury, but he hasn't really been able to find the end zone. But 16 touches, I think, is pretty solid, especially for a flex running back that we're talking about. Rams aren't a perfect matchup. I don't think they're hard either, and it seems like Kupp may not be in this game. So I just kind of think like Connor's going to get in the end zone, and he just seems to be leading up to be one of these guys who you can at least play in your flex position in that offense that Kyler Murray's getting a little more comfortable. Connor's coming back from his injury. I just kind of think like these things are lining up that Connor's going to have a 1 TD or maybe even a 2 TD game one of these next couple of weeks, and you probably just start plugging him into your lineup waiting for it.
No, for sure. His snap count went up last week from the first week he got back from injury. So you got to assume coming back from something like that, it's going to take a little bit of time to get healthy. Rams 25th DVOA versus the run, even though fantasy point wise they've been a little bit better. Cardinals surprisingly 12th best rush offense DVOA, and I think that this is a game where they're going to want to give him the ball, like you said. So yeah, I like it.
Okay, let's move on to our last flex players of the week.
So starting off, this is Chris Godwin, who I'm going with, and it's been tough playing him this year. Just 1 touchdown on the entire season. It's been tough playing anybody on the Bucs offense not named Evans or White. Maybe sprinkle a little K-Dot in there if you really need to. But this could be his week. They are playing the Colts, who are 28th DVOA versus wide receiver 2s. And looking at some of their past games, when they played the Browns, Elijah Moore was the leading receiver. Played the Jags, Christian Kirk was the leading receiver. When they played the Saints, our favorite player, Rashid Shaheed, was the leading receiver. Demario Douglas, when they played the Patriots, they just, for some reason, released Shaq Leonard, which is only going to make this defense worse. I think this is just a great matchup for those wide receiver 2s. They seem to thrive here. Godwin obviously has the talent, so hopefully this is the week they can get him some more opportunity. He had 7 targets against the Niners, but I mean, that's a tough defense to do things against. This defense is a lot softer. So I think that this is his probably best opportunity to get in the end zone for the rest of the season. I think that it definitely could happen this week. And even if not, I feel like he's going to have a lot of opportunities and still could get you there yardage and reception wise.
Yeah, it's tough with Godwin. Like, I don't really think he's any worse of a player this year. It's just that offense has changed so much that I think his role is just slightly less. But everything you said about the Colts is true, right? We've talked about it before, especially you when we were discussing that big Rashid Shaheed game a couple weeks ago. The Colts just kind of get torched against wide receiver 2s. And so if you're going to target any stat, like that really is one to kind of lean back on. Godwin's been getting the targets. He's just kind of not getting the yards to come with them.
Yeah.
So my last flex play of the week is going to be Deebo Samuel at Seattle. Huge division night game for Seattle and the Niners here. Deebo's been kind of slow since coming back from his shoulder. I think it was a fractured shoulder, right? A couple of weeks ago, he's played 2 games. He did get in the end zone that first game with a rushing touchdown, but through the air, he's kind of just had like 3-4 targets, couple catches, nothing crazy. Sometimes it's not necessarily the defense or the stats or whatever. This is just kind of those ones that I think Ayuk blew up last week. And I think Deebo just is kind of going to have himself a big game this week. It's what Deebo does, right? He has 2 like mediocre games, and then he has this capability to just absolutely blow up. And coming off last week and this whole season, how good Brandon Ayuk has looked, I just have a feeling that Seattle's going to lock Ayuk down a little more and maybe let Deebo run free a little bit more than other teams have been doing.
Yeah, no, I agree with this and fun. I'm going to be at this game, so I'll give you a little warm-up report, see how Debo's looking out there on the field. Make sure he's still looking nice and fast and strong. Seahawks 30th DVOA versus wide receiver twos, which I think at this point Ayuk is kind of running the run roll because what is Debo? He's kind of the wide back. Seattle also 20th DVOA when passing to running backs. So I feel like that's kind of his combination role for him. And he's also been really good against Seattle historically. He's missed a lot of their games, but he's played in 5 games against the Seahawks, being in the same division. His worst game was 12.2 points and half-point PPR. But then his other games, 25 points, 32 points, and then as a rookie, 15 points and 22 points. So this just seems to be a team that they don't know how to stop him, and he just does really well against. And I've got one of my good buddies is going with us. My wife is a big Seahawks fan. My buddy's a huge Niner fan. So it's going to be fun. I'm caught in the middle as a Packer fan. I'll just be catching strays all night. But somebody's going home happy and somebody's going home sad. And I'm not liking my chances of having a happy wife at the end of the game.
Do you wear your Packers jersey to the game, or what type of attire will you be wearing?
See, I want to wear my Packers jersey to the game. I've been told I should not, and that I should be borrowing a Seahawks jersey, but I don't even know if I'm really rooting for the Seahawks. I mean, I got to do a little bit of deep dive and see who's healthy, what the line's at. I'll put a little wager down, and that's going to be who I'm really rooting for, but don't tell my wife that.
We need to get you one of those, like, what was that one from a couple of years ago, the Rob Lowe hat, where he just had the hat that just said NFL? Yeah, it was just like the ref hat. That's what we got to get you for the game. Just
I got one that says football, so I'll just wear my hat.
I'm a big football guy. So let's move into the second half of the show now, into our streamers of the week. So Andy, let's get us kicked off. Let's do quarterback first. So who are you playing as your quarterback streamer in week 12?
So looking at it, there's a couple guys that I like this week. For me, I'm going to be starting Jordan Love, but I'm a huge Packer fan. For everybody else, my true pick this week, I'm going with T-Law, coming off being the QB1 overall last week, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, just a monster game. It was only his 3rd game in the top 10 at the position all year. So now I don't necessarily predict 2 rushing touchdowns this game, but this is a divisional game against the Texans. They got absolutely blown out when they played them earlier in the year. I think Doug Peterson's going to dial up some stuff for this defense. I don't think they're going to get blown out again. I don't think that's who the Jaguars are anymore, with both T-Law and then Doug Peterson at the helm. Houston is allowing the 9th most points to fantasy quarterbacks, 22nd past DVOA, and they're also tied for first in rushing touchdowns by quarterbacks. They've given up 4 rushing touchdowns to QBs on the season. There's a number of other teams who are tied there, but that is the high. So I'm not saying he will run one in, but this is a team that gives those opportunities up, so there's still a chance. So I like him building on what he did last week and keeping it rolling.
Yeah, the 12 o'clock window, or 12 o'clock Central this Sunday, it's going to be a funny one because there's going to be games like Jaguars-Texans, which could be an absolute just shootout with the way Stroud's been playing. And then it's going to be cutting back and forth to Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and New England against the Giants. And we could realistically be cutting back and forth between like 30-27 and, I don't know, 6-2. Like, if you told me that the Giants New England game was like 6-2 and Tommy DeVito got safetied or something, I believe it. But yeah, Lawrence looked amazing last week. It's what we wanted to see coming out of the bye. I have Lawrence on multiple dynasty teams, and I was like, whew, he looks good again. He's such a good player. It's just kind of like, it wasn't clicking. And then Etienne was getting just like a crazy amount of touchdowns that really wasn't sustainable. It just kind of was happening. So I'm with you. I think Lawrence is a great play. And you really can't go wrong. I think I love the stat of Calvin Ridley's splits with Zay Jones in the lineup. It makes no statistical sense, but when Zay Jones plays, Calvin Ridley has just been going off. Like, why would someone be I don't know. It's so silly.
Yeah, that's hilarious, though. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just
I
a
don't know
little
if you've
extra.
seen that. If you
Like,
see
he's
that
on the field, dude.
around,
I gotta show him that I'm the
yeah.
guy.
So for my quarterback, I'm going to go with someone that I have to say, this dude is probably one of my top 5 favorite players in the league right now. And that's going to be Joshua Dobbs against
Oh yeah.
Chicago. I mean, just frankly put, Dobbs has been amazing since coming to Minnesota. To win a couple of those games with basically no practice under his belt in the system. And his best asset as a fantasy weapon is his legs. I don't know if you're going to know this, but how many straight games has Joshua Dobbs scored a rushing touchdown?
Well, he had one last week. He had one the week before. Maybe he had one. I'm going to say 3.
5. 5 straight games with a rushing
Dang.
touchdown for Joshua
Okay.
Dobbs, which that's
Okay.
amazing. Like I saw that and like I knew he'd been getting some points on the ground, but to be able to
Yeah.
score like that, and it's just a good matchup too, right? Chicago isn't really someone you're scared of. It's a home game. They're coming off the loss, and we'll see if Jefferson comes back. I tend to think if he didn't come back last week, that at this point you might as well hold him out until after the bye and just kind of be like, I think we can beat Chicago. So I don't know if Jefferson comes back. But just in general, I think Dobbs has been really good, especially since coming to Minnesota. He was a little more up and down on the Cardinals, but he's been a great play since being on the Vikings.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. Chicago allowing the 5th most points to fantasy quarterbacks. Their 23rd DVOA versus the pass. I think this could be kind of with Fields coming back and potentially JJ coming back. This could be a higher scoring game. And I like what Dobbs has done. And, every week that he gets in the offense is a week he's going to be more comfortable operating in it. And the Bears are not a good defense. They're one that they should be able to exploit both through the air and on the ground. So I like him.
Okay, let's move forward to our last player for the week, our tight end streamer.
Yeah. So, this is another situation for me here where I'm not in love with this guy. I'm going to be playing him, and you play in enough leagues, then I'm probably going to be in a situation where I have to play him. Maybe you lost Mark Andrews. And this is Pat Freiermuth. I'd still start guys like McBride over him and Ferguson, a lot of the guys we talked about, but he's coming off of IR last week against the Browns, who have the number 1 defense in the NFL, also number 1 against the tight end. So I did not expect him to have a big game. As he gets healthier, I expect him to play a little bit more. Bengals 28th versus the tight end, allowing almost 11 fantasy points to the position. And in the 4 games that he played, Muth was a top 10 tight end in half of them, which for a guy that you're streaming, that's, I think, an okay place to be. And he is the red zone guy. He had 2 touchdowns in those games. He's the guy Kenny Pickett looks for first in the end zone. Steelers just fired Matt Canada. So hopefully this offense will only improve to give him more opportunities. But I say, even with the new guy coming in, the thing that was working was throwing touchdowns to Pat Freiermuth. So hopefully that doesn't go away. I expect him to have more targets this week than he did last week. I mean, he is a good player out there. He's got solid hands. So I think this is a bounce back week for him after disappointing return after his injury.
Yeah, and 2 things for Freiermuth. Number 1, like you said, Matt Canada being gone, I would expect the offense to, I don't know, like maybe just take some more shots. I think the thing that's missing most from them is just kind of letting it rip a little bit. They play so conservative, which makes sense. On one hand, they're trying to win. They lean on their defense. And number 2 for Freiermuth, like I have this thing in fantasy, and I know a lot of people do this too. Like, don't really judge someone too much on their first game back from injury, right? Freiermuth was out for a chunk of the season, so it's not the craziest idea that he would have a low game coming back last week, getting up to speed. Probably didn't play a full snap count. And just in general, like they're really not going to try to overwork him in that lineup. So moving forward, just like you said, I think Freiermuth belongs in this streamer category. He has a chance to score. He's a great possession guy. And they played the Browns last week. Like, I really don't think we learned anything from that.
No, just tough to play anybody against the Browns.
Okay, so for my tight end this week, this is actually one that I don't want to get ahead of myself here. But for a streamer, for someone that really hasn't been going too hot, I kind of feel good about this one. And let's hope it doesn't bite me in the back here. But that's going to be David Njoku at Denver. Now, hear me out here. Njoku's been pretty hit or miss. Nothing too crazy this year. He hasn't really done anything special. But in the 2 games that Dorian Thompson-Robinson has started, right? He started last week and he started against the Ravens earlier this year as well. Njoku has 22 targets and 13 catches in those 2 games combined. So it's not a huge sample size, but we have a 2-game sample size at least. So those numbers, I think, are just something we can't really ignore for a tight end. It's not a surprise, though, right? Njoku is a massive human being running across the middle of the field for a rookie quarterback who's just looking to get the ball out. So that target share mixed with Denver going to be without their safety Jackson as well, who got suspended for the 2nd time this year for his hit on Joshua Dobbs. So they're missing another secondary player. Denver's defense has actually been playing pretty well. This really isn't a knock against their defense, I think, but I'm not too frightened of Denver's defense. So I think in general, if Njoku's going to keep getting, an average of 11 targets per game when DTR starts, that's something that interests me as a tight end streamer.
No, this is, I think, a phenomenal matchup. And if you didn't pick it, it was 100% going to be my pick. I mean, 15 targets last week, Denver allowing the most fantasy points to the tight end, 31st DVOA to the tight end, missing one of their safeties. And also, I mean, Njoku, I don't know how much it affected his play, but he did suffer some pretty bad burns just a few weeks ago. I don't think it's, it wasn't on his hands, it was mainly on his face, but that could still have been something that it might have been affecting play just a little bit. But yeah, physical freak, probably going to be there's a chance that he's the most targeted guy in this offense with DTR in there against the best matchup against the tight end in football. So yeah, I love this stream this week. I think there's a good chance that bold prediction that he finishes top 5 this week.
I'd love it. I mean, to finish top 5 as a tight end, all you really have to do is score because it's not too difficult to reach that bar. So, Andy, just to wrap the show up, what's your game of the week? And then we can get everyone to their plates. It depends on when you're watching this video, plate of turkey, or if you're watching Wednesday to get excited and start preparing for your plate of turkey.
Yeah, well, I really hope the game of the week is going to be the Niners Seahawks so that I can be there in person to watch it. But that Niners team looks so good. I'm a little afraid. So I'm going with the Bears and the Vikings. Kind of a little sneaky under the radar. Could be a good game. This is the game Fields got hurt playing against him earlier in the year. When he went out, he was struggling through the air, but had almost 50 yards on the ground. If Justin Jefferson comes back in this game, I think that Minnesota offense can take off even more. Cole Kmet's been getting more involved in Chicago. So I like both Chandler and Madison this week. The Bears have really struggled against the run. They seem to be splitting times. I'd still probably lean Chandler a little bit. Just Madison had another fumble, and who knows how much more leeway they're going to give him with those fumbles. On the Bear side, I like Fields again this week. I like DJ Moore. I like Cole Kmet. That's about it. I think one of these running backs might have a good game, but I don't want to take the dart throw between the 3 of them on who it's going to be. Addison, great play. So yeah, hopefully this is going to be a fun, good game to watch. And as a Packer fan, I hope that the Bears win. And it's weird to say, but anything to give them worse draft picks next year and keep the Vikings out of the playoffs will make me happy.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Andy said and just be quick about it. I'm with you. I would play Chandler over Madison if I had that choice. I think he looked more explosive last week. And also he had more catches. That's the thing that really got him all those 3 points he had catches and he looked good catching the ball, right? Like they weren't like they were dump offs, but he got some run after the catch. He made a couple good grabs. When it comes to the Bears backfield, if you had to play one of them, I would choose Herbert. But like you said, if Foreman plays and it's all 3 of them, I would probably try to avoid this backfield. I still like Herbert's talent the most, but I don't know. I mean, it's pretty desperate. Like there's a lot of guys. I would play both of the Vikings guys over any of the Bears running backs. And then, Fields should be great. DJ Moore has been amazing in his past 4 games with Fields there. DJ Moore's just been killing it. So I think that's a great call. For my game, I'm going to go Rams versus Cardinals, 45.5 over under. Mainly, I'm excited for Kyren Williams to come back and play. There have been some fantasy points on the board for this Rams tandem over this past month between Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman. It's basically just been impossible to figure out who you would like to play. As of now, it looks like Darrell Henderson has been waived. So I think wheels forward for Kyren Williams. He looked very good. And I guess the thing is he looked fantasy good. I don't think he's necessarily like a top 10 elite back, but Sean McVay thinks he's very good. And he got such a heavy workload when he was playing that I know for sure I got 3 redraft teams that are very excited to get him back in their lineup.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the only thing I'm going to add is, we talked about being a little cautious about playing guys after injury. I think Kyren Williams, if you have him, put him in your lineup, play him. He was such a stud before he got hurt. He's probably going to get that bell cow roll right back immediately. So, yeah, that should be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, cool. So thank you guys for tuning in for week 12. Obviously, have a great Thanksgiving, and we're happy to be able to help you. Let's see if we can continue and just, hold ourselves accountable, have some big hits like we did last week. Andy, any last notes for everyone?
Hey, enjoy that turkey. And, look for me in the crowd if you're watching that Seahawks-Niners game. Should be on the Seahawks sideline, right around like the 40-yard line, about 20 rows up. So just, be looking at that TV. I'll maybe I can get like a giant like turkey hat or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll try and just wear something absolutely ridiculous instead of go for either team. But yeah.
Remember not to drink and bet, but if you are, make sure you somehow get everyone at your Thanksgiving to tail your bet with you so you can all do it together. So thanks for
more fun that way.